Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig, and today we're going to talk about the balanced data slate. Specifically, we're going to cover how it affects the Tyranids. There are plenty of other people who cover everything in depth, blah, 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 blah. I don't care to do that. We're going to talk about Tyranids because that's what we do here. So if you're interested in hearing my opinion on how these new changes affected Tyranids, stay tuned in this video. There weren't a huge amount of changes. It was more so how things affected other armies than it did us, but some important things we do have to cover. So if that sounds good, do like and subscribe to update on all of our content here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios. Again, we cover a lot of Tyranid stuff, despite the fact you see a lot of Eldar on the table right now. Ignore that. But yeah, we just have a great time here. Thank you, members, for supporting us. If you want to become a member, check out the link down below. Access to a lot of great stuff. And now, with all that, let's dive into today's video. So there were a decent amount of changes in the balanced data slate and the point changes, of course, today. They were not as big on affecting Tyranids. It wasn't the biggest balanced data slate we've seen. However, there's a couple important things that have come from that. So first off, in terms of rule changes, nothing rule change-wise happened for Tyranids. Some would say it's good, some would say bad. It would be nice to see a little extra for the Tyranids, but no changes better than a bad change, so we'll take that. Like kind of predicted, there were some nerfs to other factions. So Eldar had a lot of point bumps and one rules nerf, which is actually a big one for Tyranid players. They hate Marines. They had a couple important point bumps and some small nerfs. Small nerfs as in it only affected certain players, but those that affected were a big change. The whole Oath of Moment was tweaked, which is good. Slaanesh Demons, in my opinion, they were obliterated. Their detachment isn't as powerful. The data sheets, they don't have access to as many of them. Some of the powerful data sheets were nerfed, and then the points were changed. So, in my opinion, Slaanesh Demons, outside of maybe some wonky Emperor's Children style lists, aren't going to be that big of a deal anymore. In Astra Militarum, they did have some important point changes. Some rules nerfs and some point nerfs. Not as much, it is a newer codex, even though same thing with Eldar, but still some good changes there. Specifically ones like +1 to wound is not as common, which is good because Tyranids hate +1 to wound. Some game-wide themes, there's two of them here. So first off, the main one is that there are a lot of the main battle tanks went up in points. So our Exocrines and Tyranofexes, that we'll talk about later, the Ballistus Dreadnought, the Predators, Doomsday Arcs, just to name a couple of them, all of those big, long-ranged anti-tank or anti-elite infantry style weapon platforms all got a little bit of a point bump. Not a ton, but enough to hurt those lists who were spamming them. The other thing that is important is that there were 4 new detachments. Demons, Custodes, Orcs, and Tau all got new detachments, and it seems that this is going to be a now quarterly thing to add new detachments. So I would expect sometime in June or early July to expect maybe 4 more new detachments for other armies. Could be a good sign. Seeing Orcs got one and Tau got one could be a decent sign that Tyranids are likely to get another one, as we just have a larger variety of units coming up then. So stay tuned to that. Maybe we'll get something else. Maybe finally that poison detachment, which I've been begging for. But let's talk about Tyranids more a little bit in depth here. Not much. So some things got cheaper. These were wanted, but also some surprises. So the Walking Hive Tyrant went down 10 points, which I understand. He is a valuable support character. But if you're looking at him as a melee threat, he's so-so. As a ranged threat, he's god-awful. So I was not expecting a 10-point drop, but I will happily take it. In most lists, it's going to be offset by the bumps. But anyway, I will take it. Trigon went down another 10 points, which is fantastic. They are now in that territory where you might actually consider them over things like Screamer Killers, and obviously you take them over Toxicrin, but they're in that weird middling point value where they're more than the Carnifexes and the Harusfexes, but they're less than some of the other bigger bugs. So maybe you see them a bit more. And Neurolictor, one I was begging for, went down 10 points. So I'm glad we got that. You might see them start to creep back up in other lists because they're now the same price as the Death Leaper. And I would argue for a majority of lists, I would rather take a Neurolictor than Death Leaper. So at 80 points, fantastic seeing them there. And then for our units that got more expensive, it was about time that this happened. Luckily, it's minor. The Tyranid effects went up 10 points, and the Exocrine went up 5 points. Understandable. I can't really be annoyed at it. It is what it is. They are key units, and most lists where you're bringing 2 Exocrines and maybe 1 Tyranid effects, it's extra 20 points, offset by the 10 points. You got 10 points you have to shave off of your list, which in 10th edition 40k is tedious because of the way list building works. I can't just drop a few models from a unit or a simple upgrade. So there will be some reconfiguring. I think most of my lists, if I had 2 lictors, I now have a lictor and a pyrovore. So there is that. Overall, though, in the changes, nothing for the Tyranids is no major changes for Tyranids. In some way are good changes. I would have liked to see something else mixed up in there. Something for the Tervigon, something for Unending Swarm. Yeah, there's a few things that are just not still great there. For the point changes, like I've been saying, I think unless you were playing a Crusher list, which was 2 or 3 Tyranofexes and 2 or 3 Exocrines, your list is probably fine. And again, if you're someone who's playing 3 Exocrines and 2 Tyranofexes, drop an Exocrine, you're going to have another 80 points. Throw in a Harvest Vex. Or you might not have enough points for that. Throw in a Psychophage. Psychophage are great little support characters to do support monsters to do actions. Throw in a Neurolictor if you haven't. I know it's not really Crusher based, but if you can get some ways to get an extra +1 to wound or flip some battle shocks, could be pretty good. Let's see. Oh, and then there's the Trigons. There's not much to talk about with the Hive Tyrants because you either take one or you don't. It doesn't affect. You get 10 points, you probably lose them anyway from the Exocrines. But for the Trigons, they're an interesting spot. I'm looking over at my case. I do have 3 Trigons now. Maybe if you are playing a fun Vanguard Onslaught, 3 Trigons might be kind of wonky. You could rush them up a flank of a board or deep strike them and then rush them, maybe followed by a Hive Tyrant to access to some strats, and just send them, because they're fast. Advance and charge with them, they're fast. They are fragile. You know, they will die, but expect at least one of them to not make it to combat. And then the other 2, they hit pretty hard, so especially with Vanguard Onslaught buff. So maybe you see some Trigons start picking up. You could maybe argue that they would be okay in Synaptic Nexus and Crusher Stampede. Now that they are only 140 points, they actually do benefit pretty well in Synaptic Nexus. They love the extra move. They like the extra hit, +1 to hit, and and the 5-up invuln. They absolutely love that too. So maybe you see something like them pop up. I don't know if it's going to storm tournaments, but at least it makes them a little more viable if you want to try them out. Overall, not too bad. When we talked about our video last week, we talked about the win rates of various armies. I would see Invasion Fleet and Crusher Stampede maybe decline a little bit in their win rates. Right now, those are the two of the 3 most winning detachments the Tyranids have. And it's probably on the backs of Exocrines and Tyranofexes. Not all lists, but a lot of the lists probably are. Maybe you see a slight decline in that because it's one less big bug that you're probably going to be able to fit in the list. And I should say Vanguard and Assimilation Swarm, 2 detachments that don't really rely on those units. Yes, my Assimilation Swarm, I like 2 Tyranofexes, or 1 Tyranofex and 2 Exocrine. Maybe it doesn't really affect my list at all. Like I said, I think I had to trade out 1 unit or 1 enhanced. I think I dropped Biophagic Flow and I was good to go, which in the new Vanguard or the new Assimilation Swarm isn't that important, but it isn't something to consider. Now the point values of 6 Zoanthropes versus 1 Tyrannofex, where do they stack up there? We're actually going to talk about in the next video. Let's see. Next video is either going to be a members only video or a standard video. Either way, in the next standard video, we're going to do a breakdown of all the ranged options for the Tyranids. I'm glad I waited until after this because, well, we got some nerfs in the points to some of our ranged options. We're going to cover all of the ranged options for the Tyranids. We're going to see how well they do at killing various targets, as well as which are the most points efficient. So this will be a good thing to talk about. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. If you guys have watched this long, I just want to mention one more thing. We do have the Shopify site now. I'll put a link here for you guys. We currently just have 2 products there, the Hive Tyrant and the Venomthrope Torsos. However, I'm looking to add 2 new products here very soon. I've been printing out some batches right now to at least get the test runs out, and those are going to be Exocrine/Arspex bodies and warrior bodies. So if you're interested in those, go to the link. You should be able to follow the shop and it should give you notifications to when I add products. Otherwise, just check out there daily. I'm hoping this weekend I add 1 or at least both of those, and I'll keep them printing. They will take a while to print. The Exocrines are time consuming because they're large, but other than that, just stay tuned there. The Shopify link is what I'm trying to use over Etsy, and buying stuff from there honestly supports us like way more than it does watching videos and stuff on YouTube. It's just the ad revenue versus the money we make on the model. So if you want to support us and you don't want to subscribe or be a member or anything, but you want an actual physical product, consider checking that out. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you everybody for listening to this video. Let me know what you guys think about the balanced data slate. Good, bad, really screw up your list, not that big of a deal. I think for the Tyranids, the big thing is some of the scary lists against us are toned down a bit, which should help in the long run. So that's my opinion, and we'll see you next time here at Mouse from Gaming Studios.